Well, hello there, everybody. Matt Kluskowski here, and let's dive into what's new in ON1 2018.5. This is the latest release in late June 2018. All right, 9 things that we're going to cover here. Thing number 1. This is you're going to find this over in effects. In fact, let me go over here and maybe grab. Let's grab a different photo for this one. There we go. Let's grab one of these photos here. We're going to jump over here to effects. I'm going to go to add a filter, and you're going to see there's a new LUT filter. So LUT stands for look up table. A little bit deeper to go in on this in an overview video that I'm doing here. So one thing I will point you to is if you head over to my website, mattk.com/LUTs. If you scroll down, there's going to be a video that kind of goes over what's going on with them, kind of, what's different, what's new, fun, and exciting. I actually have some LUT packages that you can purchase that are different from the ones that you get with ON1. So something to check out if you're interested in. But basically, they're a modern way of editing. And when you apply a LUT, we'll go over here and we'll go in here and of course, you can go through the categories that they have here, or you can actually add your own in here as well if you were to download from the internet or buy any packs or anything like that. So when you go in here and you add a LUT, you'll see that there's some default ones inside of here. You don't have too many sliders because it's really just how much do you want to boost or not boost what it's done here. The idea behind a LUT is that it leaves you with all of your other sliders. It allows you to get an overall style to your photo, but it leaves you with all of the other sliders, the shadows, the highlights. It doesn't mess with any of that stuff. And you can create these things. And in fact, when I do create them, we can create them in a way. I use a program called 3D LUT Creator, but you can create them in a way that you can do things that you just can't do sometimes with certain presets, with blend modes and all those other things. So that is the LUT filter, and the nice thing about LUTs is when you download the LUTs that work here inside of ON1, they actually work in many other programs. So if you kind of jump between different programs like Photoshop and Luminar, anything like that, you'll be able to use those same presets. They're kind of like cross-platform presets, which is pretty cool. All right, that is feature number 1. Let's go ahead and reset that. The next thing that you'll find here, let's go jump over and find a different photo for this one that needs a little bit of transforming. I'm going to head over to the develop module. We'll scroll up to the top. You'll see under show more, there's an option there for transform. So this is there's some new transform controls. If you scroll all the way down here to the bottom, you're going to see that we can obviously transform our photo, which is not new, but you're going to see the option for a grid. So as I start to move this, I can get a little bit of a better idea on how things are stacking up between vertical, horizontal, and all the other fun things that you can do if you need to transform or do any lens corrections on your photo there. Next one, let's head up here to the file number, or to the file menu. Next one, number 3, this is manage extras. Okay, so essentially now you've got one place where you can go in here and manage all of your presets, whether it's backgrounds, borders, textures, or even that new lookup table, that new LUT feature that we saw there. And what's nice about this, it's a very visual way to go in here. You can drag and drop and move these things around. It's also a very visual way to go in here. Maybe you want to go in and add your own folder here. So I'm just going to call this one test folder. All right. I had the top one selected when I did that. So all I'm going to do is just drag it out. And you can see there's a little line that goes between. So you don't want the box, you want the line, because that means you're going to drag it out of there. And of course, it's sorted alphabetically. So there's my test folder. And then I could go in and, take a preset from here, and I could go and drag it into another folder here. And you'll see it moves it from there. And then I can also, I've got my test folder here. I can add another folder, as you saw before, test nested folder. So now I can nest folders inside of my presets. All right. So when I close here, you'll see as we go through there, you'll see that there's my test folder, and it actually shows that there's a little arrow there. So that means that there's yet another nested folder inside of it. Speaking of nested, how do you like that segue? This is thing number 4, new feature number 4. I'm going to jump over into the browse module here. And what you're going to see is we've obviously been able to create albums here for a long time, but now you can nest albums. So you can actually have, several levels of nested albums in here. So again, if I were to make an album here, and I'll call this one Test 1. In fact, let's use a real world example. A good place for a nested album would be, let's say, I just went to Costa Rica. So Costa Rica could be my name for the top album. Click OK. And then inside that Costa Rica, maybe I create another one here. Let's go create another album. And let's say I call it Birds. All right. So I can now have my Birds album, and I can drag that into Costa Rica. So now you can see there's Costa Rica, and now there's the Birds album that's nested inside of it. So I can start putting, a whole bunch of photos into the Costa Rica album, of course. And if I were to click on that, that'll show me all of those photos. But let's say a few of these are birds, and I know they're not, but let's just use that as an example. So I can drag those into the Birds album. So when I click on Birds, I see just the bird photos. When I click on Costa Rica, I see everything. Obviously, not a great example because we only got one nested folder, but maybe I can go in here and do another one called Monkeys. Click OK. And drag monkeys into the Costa Rica folder. So you can see how these nested albums can kind of help you kind of work with a trip that you've taken. Where when I click on the top level, I see everything. And then if I just want to see the stuff that's inside of some of those sub albums inside of there, I can just jump in there and click on those. Moving along to number 5, RAW plus JPEG. So we now have RAW plus JPEG support here inside of ON1, meaning if you opened up a folder that had a RAW photo and then it had an accompanying JPEG next to it, you would see it. I think, and I don't personally shoot RAW plus JPEG, but people that do shoot RAW plus JPEG, and I would venture to say most people watching this video probably don't need to, because you just select your RAW photos here and you're just a couple of clicks away from going down and exporting them into JPEGs. But if you have a specific need and you feel like you need RAW plus JPEG, as you're looking at them here, come up here to the File menu and then just say Group RAW plus JPEG. All right. So what that's going to do is now you'll see there's a little icon there. See that little box icon in the bottom corner? So that means that they're grouped. What's going to happen is ON1's going to show you the RAW photo. All right. That's what you're going to be seeing. And when you go and you edit and all those things, it's going to appear as if you're editing the RAW photo, but anything you do to this is actually already also being done to the JPEG photo. So you don't have to redo everything. And then if you were to export, you can export both, based on the RAW photo. It's not just exporting JPEGs, it will export the RAW photo too. Or export the RAW photo and convert it into whatever format that you're telling it. All right, so that is your RAW plus JPEG feature. And of course, if you want to turn it off, you can come back up here and turn it off if you want to see all of your JPEGs next to your RAW. Another cool one here, we're going to jump over into Develop, is camera profiles. So camera profiles are profiles, whether you know it or not. Every single thing that displays your photos on a screen has a profile that it's picked to render them. So your camera has a profile that's inside of it. It's showing you your photo on the back of the screen based on a profile that's selected in your camera. When we shoot RAW, those profiles are usually discarded, and the software that we're looking at, they're in charge of picking a profile. So if you use Adobe, they have a certain profile that they're going to give you. If you use Capture One, they render with a certain default profile. As you come up here to this camera profile section, you can see the default one that ON1 is giving you is ON1 standard. As you go down in here, now you can simulate some of the profiles that are inside of your camera. And these could change based on the camera that you have. So that's also important to remember, because a lot of times profiles are camera based, and so you might not see the same ones that you see from one camera in another camera. But you can see, again, some ON1 standard and obvious, the landscape, portrait, vivid, neutral, different looks. Which one's right? Guys, it's whichever one you like the most. That's the right one. This is the one that ON1 has chosen to start you with. But it's whichever one you like. It's almost, if you ever shot film, it's almost like you've picked a film. Every film had a certain way that it rendered the photo. And that was the characteristic of the film. Your profile is very, very similar to that. So there really is no right one. The right one is the one that you like the most out of them. Moving on to number 7, background export. All right, this one's pretty quick. Let's go over here, grab a couple of photos, and let's say I want to go in here and take these photos and export them as JPEGs. So I would just hop over to the right-hand side, scroll down to the universal icon on devices and applications for export down there in the bottom corner. And you'd go through and you'd set all your export settings. I won't go through all that. But as you scroll down here to the bottom, you're going to see that if I click on that little arrow, oh, it actually happened. If I click on that little arrow, I was going to get an option, and it actually happened a little too fast for me. Let's go ahead and cancel out of there. You're going to get an option. Let's go back over here into export. Some people might redo their video, but I'm just going to say, hey, there you go. So click and hold on that little button, and you can see export in background. So that means the software is now not tied up. The software, you can now go ahead and you can continue editing and all those things. The export might not happen quite as fast, but this usually means, hey, you know, let it happen. I want to continue working. I'll get to it when I get to it. If you're in a rush and you need them done ASAP, then you can go to export now. It'll lock the software up. You're not going to be able to do anything else, but it'll export them a little bit faster. Okay, so the default is export in background. That's usually what most people want. So you can just come down here, click the export button, and as you saw down there, there's a little progress indicator that shows you where it's at. Another one. Let's go ahead and cancel out of here. I'm going to jump back over into Browse, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into Filmstrip View. There's a little icon in the bottom left corner of Browse called Filmstrip View. Probably a view you're very familiar with if you've been working in this industry and software for a while. You know, maybe you came from a different program before, something like Lightroom or even Capture One. You've got a film strip down at the bottom, and then you've got your photo in the middle. Well, what's happened here is the film strip used to be when you got into this view, it wasn't a super fast way to go through your photos. And so it would basically take a long time to hit the right arrow button and go, you know, to scroll through all your photos. So what they've done is they've just improved the performance of that. So now you can actually go through your photos a lot quicker. Where I find it even better is when I'm in develop, because it's still fast in develop, but I like to have that film strip open, and I know all these photos look the same, but you can see the waves are slightly different for all of them. But I like to have develop open and then be able to very quickly, you know, jump to the next photo without necessarily having to go back to browse and start scrolling through photos. So I can use that right arrow key and very quickly jump through all the different photos down there in Filmstrip. And then the last one, I hate to even put it down as a new thing, because every company everywhere always lists, you know, performance increase as a new thing. So what I will say is it feels speedier. So I'm not the guy to do benchmark tests and all that stuff. All I can say is I used it the day before I installed the update, and I used it the day after. Everything does feel speedier. And of course that Filmstrip View, which I just shared with you in the last one, that one definitely is faster, because anybody that's used it before, I'm just hitting the right arrow key. You can probably hear me tapping on it, and it's going pretty quick through those photos, and that didn't used to happen in the previous version. So there definitely is a speed boost in there. Okay, folks, hope you enjoy this. And I had mentioned it before, but if you want to, if you're interested and you're kind of adopting this LUT workflow, the lookup tables, I've got a big bundle on sale over at mattk.com/LUT. So I hope you'll stop by and check it out. Thanks for watching, and I will talk to you again real soon.